Good afternoon. I want to say I hope you are having a good day today. And if you are a mother and you are in a situation where you need to provide a direct supervision of your child, including in relation to whatever their school activities are coming up for the week, and you have to prepare for that, then I want to wish you the best of luck and I want to hope that you're safe in so doing. But I want to speak to you about some matters that are very important that I have as recommendations for what I would like to work with you on moving forward. There are some major things that I think could be done that can make things a lot easier and can make things a lot safer for all of us. And it starts with you. I think that there are some practical considerations that are going to need to be taken into account first and foremost because in the upcoming weeks and months, there's going to be some serious challenges that are going to be coming to light publicly that may or may not be things you want to actively engage with. And if you do, you should have a right to do so. But in the meantime, it's important that we make our first priority making sure that the things that we need are taken care of. In another manner, for going on over 2 months, I have, as Attorney General of Texas, for instance, taken measures that, had they been implemented at the time, would have already provided a form of material security with an understanding that the actual obligations associated with them could have been ones that would have been things that we would have been actively engaged with articulating as they came up and setting terms around whether or not to commit to them or whether or not to find some other adjustment in terms of how to deal with them. This also could have been put into effect and was attempted for effectuation beginning last year. I had another blog, and on that blog, which started out with my critique of an article that had been published concerning alleged punitive actions that were being recommended concerning misbehavior by children in schools, that one of the things that blog did is it's cataloged, or rather followed, a time frame of events wherein specifically meaningful conversations and active engagement by the community could have been effectuated to implement decisions that would have made things at that moment accountable. Now, I'm going to say this, what I say now and what I say moving forward, with an understanding. Right now, during 2021, is a time frame where, among other things, we are coming up on the year following what was supposed to be the engagement of the community in the Northern District of Texas area, specific to discussions around rates regarding water usage and water access. These were parts of conversations and administrative processes that had been engaged by members of those communities for a protracted period of time. And there had been a resolution that, after a certain administrative process, 2020 was supposed to be the year where open meetings and open discussion and debate was going to be had by members of the community about what they wanted to do with what had been articulated as a disproportionate forbearance or disproportionate obligation incurred when it came to water rates and access and usage of water rates. These were things that I understand communities, including communities that would be involved with providing water access to people in their homes as well as in the school system, in addition to the other places that it was needed, were going to be considered. You should be an expert in your own home. You should be an expert in what you need and what you don't need in your own home. You should also be able to be acknowledged for the expertise you contribute to your work environment, including but especially if your work environment involves providing for the welfare of children. Now, presumably because of COVID-19, the ability to meet in public and to be a part of those community conversations was cut off. I will let you know that despite all else that had happened, my intention was to actually go to those meetings and listen to the community and get engaged with the community around their discussions regarding water access and rates regarding water access, to know how the different people from the different regions understood these very important matters. As a matter of fact, I believe that what was supposed to happen, based upon the community decisions going through an appropriate administrative process, including with local and state regulators, and in connection with other ongoing very important policy issues regarding energy and natural resources, that was probably one of the most important political moments in Northern Texas history, if not in American history. But due to the COVID-19 situation, other things happened instead. I want you to know I was a witness to that. And the manner in which I did participate has provided me with an even more inspired resolution to persist in honoring and knowing that there was an intent to do that and that it should have been able to move forward, and that hopefully whatever regrouping happens now is going to acknowledge the profundity of that time frame and all that went into it, which I anticipate involves a lot of things I don't know about and wasn't privy to, and that were hopefully going to be explored and examined and decided upon for the community during those public meetings that were supposed to come up. So I want to acknowledge that I'm not trying to create something new in this regard. It was already happening. It was already supposed to be able to move forward on a particular trajectory. And honestly, it was also supposed to happen concurrent to what had already been planned as investments in infrastructure, including and especially water infrastructure, that had a multi-decade timeline during which last year factored in very prominently. And had there been attention paid to construction and or restoration, including inspection, and including using those fixed assets that were both being maintained, repaired, or constructed last year in considerations of any sort of public financing that was going to be decided and implemented concurrent to the political process around discussion of rates and water usage, we'd be in a very different situation. That's what you deserve. And so in the course of that, I think now that we've had this year that's happened with COVID-19 and there's been a disproportionate influence of a specific paradigm that has been effectuated at the federal level that I do not believe has been explicated very effectively. And now is the time we can take what has already happened and we can build on it. I am going to start this by asking for those who have received any of the COVID relief to pay a consideration in regards to the specifics of the COVID relief. I want to speak specifically about this understanding of stimulus. Now, some of you might have gotten paper checks. Some of you might have gotten an electronic transfer of funds. The distinction between whether you got a check in the mail or whether you got an electronic transfer of funds is going to be very important. If there was some sort of concern about the delivery of your funds, and there may have been you may have had concerns that there may have been an expectation of a non-verbally confirmed performance of obligations in connection with receipt of those funds, then I hope that you do what you need to do to make sure you accurately reflect on and record, if you haven't already, anything that happened in that regard. And I want you to know that whatever it is that you would need to discuss, I would support you doing that, and I would support you doing that publicly if you needed to, or assuring that people who are capable and ready to provide for any sort of assistance, including in a manner that would respect your rights to privacy, would be made available. That would be the first priority. And then from there, my understanding is that that was supposed to be something that was invested in the economy, presumably to address the economy during the time frame where we were in a state of emergency. Now, you may or may not have gone through with already providing for your personal income tax. If you have, then I wish to talk with you specifically about your experiences. I think that that was taxable income. And not only was it taxable income, but because of what it actually entailed, it was also taxable income that could potentially be available for you and for your family and for the communities as a form of tax refund. And then the question becomes, what do we do with that tax refund? We're not talking about taking a temporary loan from the government. It's the opposite. The government took a temporary loan from us and paid us a fee in the form of the COVID relief. This is one way to see it. And this is the primary way that I anticipate we can address it to deal with it in the most beneficial manner that allows for us to actually engage in recovery and also find a foundation for dealing with what we did not get to do and follow through on that we needed to during that state of emergency. The economies that were already in existence, including political economies, were absolutely essential. And by having them not be allowed to move forward, there is a lot we have lost. We can recover it, and I believe this is one way to recover it. Now, I'm on the record as saying that I attempted to report whatever individual COVID relief I received as income. And the hope was that when I reported it as income, including in connection with the understanding that I have an LLC and I did not receive and did not accept any COVID 19 relief from any bank that was providing COVID 19 related assistance. I used the income from the government as an investment in my business with an anticipation I could include it as taxable income. And then, depending upon the information and the matters related to the payment of taxes on my business, would potentially be availed of a refund or some sort of other consideration of my tax contribution. You see, if we're getting money from the federal government, that has to come from somewhere. It wasn't acknowledged in any ways as being a loan. And it wasn't acknowledged as being a fee being paid to us in order to use us, our lives, and our possibilities for a loan. And if it was, it certainly wasn't told to us for how long. And that is a very serious matter that has to be discussed and has to be addressed actively. And not just in the realm of people at some sort of policy think tank or people at the level of a bank or financial institution board of directors, or people that are on boards of directors of companies that are dealing with their relationship to what has happened to the economy in the meantime. I would recommend that we consider the possibility of understanding that COVID relief, regardless of the amount you got as an individual, or maybe in connection with being in a relationship where you would have been available for the couple's amount, or the married couple, the married partner amount, as a form of income, and then from that income, it would be considered in a specific relationship to considerations of taxable income. Now, when I went through and computed it myself, one of the things I noticed is that it would have provided with a concept of a consideration of a refund. And that refund, I contend, is something we could use to invest in securities for our local communities. If people are taking the money from the federal government and not paying the tax and allowing for other people to take the credit or to take the aggregated financial data associated with that, including what they've taken from us in the meantime, and assess it outside of our capacity to actively engage and have participation in, then they have, in fact, expropriated our personal private property and used it for illegal purposes, up to and including obligating us to illegal debt in matters that violate the 14th Amendment. There's a deficit. They're putting out trillions of dollars through the federal government, presumably as part of these investments. We, as the taxpayers, are obligated to it. If they have misrepresented the terms of what they're doing, and they're taking our financial data and doing illegal things with it, including in manners that will disproportionately politically advantage certain individuals while intentionally deceiving and defrauding others, that's illegal. And we're not those kind of people. So it behooved them to be forthright about that and to discuss how it actually should be considered a form of taxable income. And then once the appropriate computations as taxable income are completed, to understand that we should, as citizens, take responsibility for investing it with an understanding of it being taxable income. There's no reason why we, as the people, don't have the capacity to understand what it means to have to use income availed of from taxation as part of investment, including investment in sound public works that could provide for local public financing, that can help actually create and motivate our economy in manners we can invest in personally and that will provide us with actual safety and security. So this is what I understand is a kind of perspective we can be moving forward on now. I do not make any mistake here that the people I'm dealing with are at least as sophisticated, if not much more so than me. You probably have a home, hopefully have a home. You hopefully have to deal with your transportation considerations. You've had many years of having to deal with different factors related to your work and all of the things you've had to organize in order to provide for your family in manners that I do not. But I do understand and have some experience with understanding the manners in which specific systems have attempted to dispossess us of our capacity to communicate important public information as a form of currency and a form of investment. And you've been intentionally disinvested from and disinvested for a protracted period of time for political reasons that were not successful. So I look forward to working with you in moving forward in how to be successful. As a final note, I would like to bring up the matter of education. If you were compelled to school your child, including in connection with use of a digital interface during this time of COVID-19, you may not agree with me, or you may, but I consider that to be a serious crime. It should not have happened. I may have a more severe mentality in terms of how to address that than others, including you. But I am not going to make any mispretensions about it. I believe that it was the responsibility of educators that had access to the information they did, including in the state of Texas, but also elsewhere, to not allow for what happened during COVID-19 to happen when it came to education for children up to and including, but especially primary education for children. I am not alone. There are people that ever since the beginning of the announcement about COVID-19, where some of them even protesting, violating the law, and attending public meetings or creating public assembly, even when there was an alleged quarantine, in order to protest what they saw as potentially harrowing and the implications of what were being set up. At the time, my focus was not so much in their direct action, but it was very important that they did it. And I don't think that what they did is so dissimilar from other kinds of direct action that were being taken at the time. If we get beyond the attempt to try to contrive a misrepresentation that a particular kind of racialized political justice was attempted for effectuation in the last year, then I think people are going to see we have a lot of common interest in demanding a forthright release of information and a cessation of intimidation tactics, preventing us from being able to assemble together to engage with the information we already have on our experiences and our expertise, including the experience and expertise that was attempted to be dispossessed from us and attributed to some other purpose, regardless of our political feelings or even regardless of the law. And we can actually reacquire that for ourselves and contribute to each other what we have. If there's other kinds of action that need to be taken moving forward, and we should be able to decide on that together, and we should be able to hold each other accountable while we hold them accountable. And that said, I hope you have a good day, and I look forward to actually speaking with you. Please, if you want, feel free to contact me. At some point out there are still some of the people I've met before. I look forward to talking with you again, learning about what you've done. Tell you right now, there's really nothing you can tell me I wouldn't believe. Right? So don't worry about that. Have a good day.